Hey, how are you doing? It's Reg here again. This time what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at going to Venus. Venus is an interesting one to land on because its atmosphere is very, very thick and it's rather hot at the best of times. But the thick atmosphere is really what we're concerned about in the simulator. And the reason for it is, if you've ever done a belly flop on water, you can realize how much that hurts. Well, this is more like pea soup, and it's quite thick. So when you're coming into Venus, you got to come at a very shallow slope and just be willing to cook for a while as you're going through there, and use your heat shield and just ride it down. On this particular rocket, we'll go through my explanation of what I've built here. And this one I think has components that are in the paid for, the expansion pack for it. I honestly don't remember what is just in the basic one, but I think it's got some of the expansion stuff. But you could probably get around it with doing your own build. But let's take a look at what we've got on this thing. So the bottom half is very similar to what we had going to Mars and everything. In this case, I've got the highest end engines. So if I click on the little hamburger, let me just bring up my pointer again. Yeah, if I click on the little hamburger here, basically under the engines, we've got one extra one at the top there in particular, which is the Titan engine. So it's got 12 tons of thrust versus the 3.5 on these ones. So that one I'm pretty sure is in the expansion, and that's a nice engine. That's why I've used it for this. I also have this one that I'm using. The Frontier engine is the one that I'm using while we're in space, because again, it's just more of an efficient, and it's got 6 tons of thrust rather than 2. So I guess we get there a little bit faster. And we also have the Ion engine down here, which was on the bottom of the rover, if you remember seeing it. But they don't have a lot of push. They're more for just moving something small around in space. The one thing with them is they're extremely high efficiency, so they don't use much of your fuel. You'll have them for a long time. Okay, so let's go back and take a look at this rocket here. So if we're going down, we've got just the basic, the 4 outside thrusters. I've got some explosive connectors on them so I can eject them when it's time. But let's spend a few minutes looking at this guy. So I'll take my pointer here. I'm just going to set it to just a blue dot so it's not. Okay, so down at the bottom here we've got a probe, the brain, basically, which is going to allow me to control this rocket afterwards if I want to. And usually what I end up doing with it is dip it into Venus at a fast altitude, just getting it out of the way. We've got some ports here that we can connect with it, so basically once this guy is disconnected, he can actually connect onto something again afterwards. There's the brain for the probe. Think of the probe now as being upside down. I've got a parachute on its side just in case I need a little extra help in slowing down. Venus, you drag through the atmosphere a long time trying to slow down, but once you've slowed down, it's pea soup, right? It's not going to drop super fast, so it's fairly easy to control it once you've made it through the burn-up section. Okay. Thrusters, so we can adjust our angles a little bit more efficiently than just the tilting of the rockets or whatever. I've got a fairly large fuel tank. The reason I did that with this is I use this same lander for multiple different locations on planets as well as on moons and all the different ones. There's the legs. The legs will drop down and actually reach below the shield. So if we wanted to keep the shield on, that's possible. Dual thrusters on the bottom of it. These are just some structural components for the blow-away shield. So I can blast this off once we get through the atmosphere, or in all honesty, you can just run the thrusters and they'll overheat the shield and make it go away. But it's probably better to eject it properly. Okay, so there's all of it inside of a fairing, just to keep it protected while we're going through the Earth's atmosphere. We'll eject that once we get out into space. So if we come down here and take a look at the staging, first stage is just to turn on all the engines. Second stage is going to be to eject this little bottom part right here. So I dumped that off fairly early, and I don't like this thruster. This thruster works best in space. I'll wait till I get to space for it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to blow off these side ones and open up the heat shield, or the fairing, just because we'll be close enough to space by that point to eject it. Next one is open up these ones and light this rocket, and I also enable these thrusters at the top here. And then we go for the ride. When we get to Venus, I will turn on these engines, and that way I can use it to slow myself down if I need to. But usually if you come in on a shallow angle, you'll get through without burning up. So let's get going. So I've got my phone here that I'm using for this thing, so I'm just gonna get us to the launch pad. Okay, so there we are. So take the throttle to full. I'm gonna hit this thing down here, which tells it to start doing the staging. So the first stage, as you remember, is just turn on the engines and hit the throttle, and off we go. So as I mentioned before, I do these all as step-by-steps. I didn't build the whole rocket, but I'm going to step you through the whole thing. So we're going to show you the process all the way there in flight here. So once I get over 1,000, I usually start swinging over. You want to get the Earth orbit in going, so you want to get some sideways momentum going as well. Okay, I've gone a little bit far over, but that's okay. We got lots. So now I can go to 45. You can see that engine's off. So just stage. We lose the bottom one. And again, I do staging by just pressing the little button down here. Okay, let's see where we are. So you can see that lower part just sort of spinning away and going back down. Then go up to 60, 70. I know we're going to make it into orbit, no problem. Or at least clear the atmosphere at this point. So I'm watching the thrust. I'm also watching the height that I'm doing here, because I don't need a lot of height. I just want to get into space. And in just a few seconds, yeah, let's do it. We're going to switch over, watch the rocket, and as soon as the outside ones are done, we will eject those. And the fairing. There's a little bit of drag yet, so that might have been a little bit of an early call for the fairing, but we're okay. Okay, let's go fast forward for a little bit. I've turned off the engine. Just going to fast forward up to the high point of our orbit. Make sure I'm pointing my rocket in that general direction. Okay. Now this guy's a little bit heavy, so it takes a little bit more effort to get him turned. And let's kick on the thrusters again. So again, first thing we're just trying to do here is get our orbit, and no problem at all. There we go. Low Earth orbit, and we're out of fuel. So let's eject off these last ones. I'm just going to thrust a little bit just to get ahead of those rockets. There we go. So they don't come spinning around and hit me or something. Now, let's back out and go find Venus. There's Venus. So what we're going to need to do is go around to the transfer window. So I'm just going to, we know we're in orbit, so I'm just going to accelerate around. Do a little time travel here. Okay. So come a little closer. And again, I don't shoot past it, I just come up close. If you ever have a time where it looks like you're already at the transfer window, go around. Because sometimes I've noticed that it just gets confused and you never actually get a good clear leaving point there. Okay, so just keep an eye. There we go. As soon as it changes to transfer window, escape, all that starts showing up there, that's when I go back down to the Earth here. Take a look at where my transfer window is. So transfer window is here, my rocket's here. So I'm just going to loop around until I get over to that. And I'll have to adjust the angle a little bit when we get there. I got lots floating around in space here now. Okay, so let's just adjust our angle a bit. Okay, it's a heavy rocket, lots of fuel yet. So we're coming up on the transfer window. There's no use really wasting fuel or anything getting up into a higher orbit. All you really need is just an orbit to transfer from. Okay. Just give it a couple of seconds until we get over there, and then we'll hit the thruster. So off we go. So if I back out, then I'm just going to accelerate time here a little bit. So you can see the furthest point from the Earth now is starting to extend out, and that's going to reach out towards my escape location to head to Venus. And Venus is in closer to the Sun, so in a lot of cases it's shooting it backwards from our orbit. If we take a look, okay, so it's actually pointing backwards towards. You can see the escape is going in the opposite direction. Okay, so that's growing there still. Like I said, we got lots of fuel, so we're not too worried about it at this point. And this will start to pick up quite fast as we get going. There it is. I'm going to slow it down. And I'm going to slow down with the throttle. And then it'll start reaching over. And the same thing as when we were going to the moon. But of course, we've shot past the moon now. We're looking to escape. Same as going to Mars. So we're just going to keep coming in until that line just disappears. The dotted line. I just keep it expanding out to. You see it's starting to move a little bit, the dotted line, so I know we're getting close. And you don't want to come up on this too fast because you will just cause yourself grief. There it goes. So I immediately turn off my thrust. Go back. Let's find Venus. So there's our flight path coming in. Yeah, it's coming closer. See, I've got a few things around Venus right now. do not want to land. I just want to get in orbit. You can see the gravitational pull of Venus affecting my flight there. So let's just jump out and go. We know we're pointing in the right direction. I've got the engines off basically, so we're just going to pass time here. There comes the rocket. Okay, once you're there, slow it down so you got control. I have overshot planets before, and that is not a good thing for your astronauts. This one, luckily, is just a probe, so don't have to worry about anybody going here. It's not a really friendly place anyway. So a little bit more. Now, what I want to do is gain. Closest point to the planet is where I am going to reverse my thrust so that we start to slow down and pull ourselves into an orbit. You can see I didn't go exactly towards the arrow yet because you can see it's got quite a bit of a bend here. It's got a good gravitational field on it. So getting in closer. Just going to check my trajectory now. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just when you're close. Give it a couple of seconds to get it right there. Okay, close enough. Full throttle. Make sure the engines are going, which it is. And you will watch. The line has a bit of a bend as it's going up. What will happen now is because I'm slowing down, you'll see that's starting to bend even more now because the rocket is slowing, and therefore the Venus will have a greater effect on it, and will, not just as it is now, it's going to pull it into an orbit. You can see we've attained a very high orbit. There it is, coming in. Again, I do not want to bring it all the way down in this one motion. I want to get close. And you can see this really starts to slow down as you get further along here. So it's going to speed up the time here. And you can see I've gone past the closest point by quite a bit now. And that's okay. It will continue to adjust. Again, I do not want to go all the way in yet, but I'm going to get it below 100 here, I think. There we go. So let's just move around to the other side, and we're going to get it even closer now. So we'll turn. We're able to turn a little bit faster now because we're a little bit lighter on fluid. There we go. Okay. So get the last little bit in, and then we'll slow it down the rest of the way. I could just let it loop here because, like I say, we do officially have an orbit, but just to be efficient on time here. That we're bringing it in. There's no use wasting the fuel. I might as well get really low. Again, we want to come in shallow. We don't want to come in hot with this one or really steep because we will burn up. So we want to bring this in quite shallow. Okay, I want to see both sides to make sure we're not coming in too close anywhere. Without wanting to, of course. Okay, so closest point is 53. I'm going to take it right down to like 45. That's close enough. Come around. And we'll spin around again. Just about there. So let me know if there's things in the build and that you're not getting, because that was the thing I found with this simulator. It's a great program, but a little tough to pick up at first. So if there's something in particular that you want more detail on, I'm purposely skipping the actual physics and the more high-end terms by just saying by the closest point instead of apogee and perigee and everything. But I'm trying to do this so that everybody can understand and enjoy this, because there's a good learning going on just doing this thing. It's quite nicely done. So let's come in a little bit more, and now we are ready to come in. So we have an orbit. Okay, so we can just orbit away like mad there if we want to, but I think we're ready to come in. So I'm going to point towards my path again, and let's land and get through this atmosphere. So as I start to bring this in, you can see the line starts to break the atmosphere. There it goes. So we're entering the atmosphere basically on the other side, and I'm just going to take this right down to about there. Okay, so you can see I am just a little bit above the atmosphere. Okay, so I'm just going to turn the face a little bit more. Before I do anything else, I want to transfer off any fuel that may have been used on those upper rockets from working the thrusters, because I got lots left here. Okay, I used the same build when I went to Jupiter and other locations as well. So I think we're pretty close to the point of, yeah, we're getting there. Let's just burn this off for a bit here. I'm just watching my approach angle to make sure we got lots of. Okay, let's get rid of it. So I'm going to stop this, disconnect, rotate. Now I'm just going to grab this guy and switch to him. We got a little bit of time. So I'm just going to turn it. Make sure my thrust isn't going to hit my other rocket. And just say goodbye to him. Okay, switch to that one. So now we're ready to come in. That other one is going off like a bullet. Let's see where it went. Switch to this one, and let's point this guy down into the planet. And make sure he's gonna, yeah, he's actually gonna he's actually leaving us. There he's going. Okay, let's switch to this guy so we don't start overheating too much. And this is where the work starts. So the idea again with this is you need to keep this big shield I've got here pointed in the direction. And I will turn on these rockets in case I ever need them. You can see they can actually fire through the shield, but they heat the shield up pretty fast until they will eventually burn it off. Now we're on a pretty shallow approach, so we should be fine here. I'm not going to worry about the big rocket at this point. It's going to say goodbye. And if not, we'll find out where it went afterwards. We'll see if it's still flying. Maybe I'll take it into the sun if it's still going. So again, this is where the thrusters are handy because they will help to keep us pointed in. And this is something I found. If you don't know what each of these buttons do on the thrusters, this is going to move us to the right. This moves us to the left. These will move the thrusters in different directions. You need to really practice in using the thrusters so you know which ones go where. And the thing that's nice with the thrusters is if I tell it to go to the right, it'll move to the right and then it'll thrust to the left to make sure that we don't over. So that's why you can see the thrust going off in both directions. So we're starting to slow down. Atmosphere is getting thicker. I try to do 30 minutes for these videos because of the fact I do cover the whole preparation of them. My shield is getting pretty warm, but we're also starting to slow down. Guys, don't forget this is pea soup we're going through. This is pretty thick. But you can see I'm doing a lot of adjustments. Okay, shield temperature is coming down. I'm doing a lot of adjustments to try to keep this pointing in the right direction. Okay, so we're still 10K up. There we go. We got a little bit of scorching and that going on here. I'm going to go and click on this guy to cause it to break, but I want to keep making sure I'm pointing. And then I'm just going to do a flip. Watch me go. Whoop, oh, it didn't come loose. Must have cooked it on there. That's okay. Okay, and that's one thing I wanted to show you. If I do the legs too soon, it basically what it does is become a dart almost. Come on, turn. There we go. Now I am going to deploy thrusters. Come on. There we go. So again, this is really thick. So I'm going to slow down pretty fast in this stuff. And there goes the heat shield because I just cooked it, right? So you can see I'm slowing down. There's no problem there. Now that I'm slow enough, let's drop the legs again. And this is where you need to watch now your height, everything. I could deploy the parachute if I wanted to. If you can see the arrow is pointing off to the right, then just point your thrust a little bit to the left. You'll get it eventually straight up and down again. let's see where there's this. We're going to land on the middle of a mountain or something here. This could be interesting. There we go. See, we're going so slow that even pieces that were attached to us are starting to fall off. If we take a look at the map, find out where we are. There we are. Yeah, we are coming down basically on the top of this little range here. I don't want to come down on the side of it though, so here we go, here we go, here we go. Okay, thrust. Don't go too fast. Don't go back up. Don't go back up. Don't fall too fast. Somewhere in the middle. On the side of the mountain. There we go. Let's see where we are. We're sliding down the mountain. Let's go. Thrust. Thrust. Oh no. This could be bad. Okay. We will have to try that one again. But you can. I was just coming down too much on the tip, and I forgot to save again. Make sure you save before you actually approach the landing. But that's good for this one. If I'm at least somewhat entertaining, I think it's subscribe and help me to afford to keep building these rockets that I do some damage with. But anyway, thanks so much. Reg here again. Please subscribe. Please hit a like. I'm trying to see. I'm doing this originally. I started originally doing this for my son, but I want to show him now that I can actually build an audience. So over there. Yeah, over there. Click subscribe. Talk to you later. Have a good one.